Spinach has been cultivated for probably over 2,000 years. We don't know when it was first cultivated in the U.S., but we do know who the most famous consumer is, and that was Popeye, who came around in the 1920s. Today I'm going to do a wilted spinach dish with mushrooms sauteed into it and some garlic, and I think you're going to really like this one, particularly those of you that may not be as fond of cooked spinach. This one has some alternative flavors that will help get through some of the issues that you may have with spinach. I've got a tablespoon of olive oil. You could use canola oil, and to that I'm going to add 2 cups of sliced mushrooms, and we're going to let these saute just a couple of minutes, maybe up to 5 minutes, depending on how hot your pan is. Stir them around a little bit, and we want the juices to start coming out of them, and when that happens and they start to get just a little bit of golden brown, we're going to go on with the next ingredients. As you can see, the juice has actually come out of our mushrooms and pretty much evaporated, so we're ready for the next step. I've got a clove of garlic that I've minced up really well, and we don't want the garlic to burn, so I'm just going to add it after the mushrooms are already cooked and basically just stir it in, and then go directly to adding the spinach. I have a pound of spinach. Now spinach, of course, is everyone knows it's supposedly good for the muscles because of the iron and the calcium in it. However, it's also got an oxalic acid content that pretty much binds most of the iron and the calcium that you find in the spinach. So it's not necessarily as good a source for those, but it's the highest vegetable source of folic acid, and so for that reason alone, we'd like to encourage it. I'm having a little bit of fun here with the breeze. But what we're doing here is simply wilting it. So I'm adding it in stages so that it gets a chance. Otherwise the pan gets too full and it won't all fit. You'll notice I left stems on. These are fairly tender stems. If you have tougher stems, then you're going to want to remove those. Probably the biggest thing about spinach, though, and one of the reasons that a lot of people don't like it, is that they've had experiences with the spinach being gritty. Because it wasn't cleaned well enough. So what you need to do as far as making sure that you clean it well is to fill up a bowl of water, nice fresh drinkable water. Put the spinach in, submerge it, make sure you've trimmed away any stems that you might have on it before you get started, and just scrub it around, agitate it with your hands, and then lift it out and let it drain in a colander. Then take that water and recycle it on your garden, refill that bowl, and do it again until you don't see any of that grit left. The flatter, smoother types or varieties of spinach are easier for most of us to work with than some of the Savoy spinaches that are real crinkly. So if you've had trouble with it, you may consider what variety you're growing and get one that's easier for you to handle. Or just make sure that you clean it through several batches of water to make sure there's no grit left, because that's one of the biggest turnoffs with a lot of people, is to bite into it and feel the grit, or to finish eating it is even worse and see the grit laying on the plate. As I said, how much you want to wilt is totally dependent on you. I like to leave a little bit of the freshness and kind of have it mixed between that that's already completely cooked and that that's not. Just keep turning it until you get it to the point where you like it. I'm going to pretty much say this is where I want it to be. I'm going to add about half a teaspoon of freshly cracked pepper, give it a little spice. You could also have added some onion early on when I was sauteing the mushrooms. You could have added a little bit of onion at that point, or you could cut in a little bit of green onion at this point. You might add a little bit of spinach early on, or leftover spinach, or chicken is what I'm trying to say here, so that you have a little bit of additional flavors in here as well. But this is a really nice way to use spinach. It uses up large amounts. You've probably had 12 to 15 cups of spinach in order to get a pound. And it cooks down so that by the time you finish, you've got 4 servings left. I think this is one you're going to like if you can keep it on the plate and out of the breeze. This is wilted spinach with mushrooms and garlic. For Oklahoma Gardening, this is Barbara Brown.